Hi, so this is my second time going because the first time I went way over the limits and it stopped me. So for this week, we are learning development theory part two. So for this week, we had Erickson, 8 stages of psychosocial development, and then we had the social emotional development. So we'll start with the 8 stages. Erickson believed that we as humans go through 8 stages throughout their lives. And this is a little graph that I grabbed from the internet that is a little bit more clear and concrete. So we'll go through the PowerPoints. So the first one is trust versus mistrust. Trust, and this occurs ages 1, and then the children learns trust or mistrust based on social, culture, society, and expectations of parents and caregivers. However, mistrust occurs when those needs aren't met. Before I go on, I did um, my PowerPoint with highlighting or with topics or the titles of the red words. So autonomy versus shame. This is that happens at 2 years old, and then this is when the child is just learning how to walk, so he becomes more independent. So they have a greater self control and of independence. However, if the child's needs aren't met, then Erickson believed that a child can grow up to be shameful or to be shamed. Sorry. So then stage 3, which is initiative versus guilt, which is 3 to 5 years old, and then so Erickson believed that one of the virtues of the initiative would be purpose, and if that wasn't met, then the child will grow up with guilt, which is the outcome will be in I can't inadequacy. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. So children begin to assert their power and control over the world through direct play and interaction. If the child experiences initiative through the crisis, then the child will have a purpose of life. However, if the child experiences guilt, then the child will feel inadequacy. And then we have industry versus inferiority. So at this age, children have a little more concrete thinking, um, and are able to be part of complex tasks like learning of the timetables or having a or being or given a book report. Something like that. However, so if a child is able to accomplish memorization memorizations of the timetables or of finishing a book report, then they feel like they uh, master something, and they show pride and greater self-esteem versus if they don't reach this or aren't able to reach this, then the child gets a sense of inferiority. Um, so they feel like they can't. An example that he gave, let's see. So the child will feel competence if he does accomplish the industry, or inferiority, which he will feel that he is not capable of completing those tasks. And then we will go on to the level 5, which is ages 12 to 18. And then this is more adolescence. And then this is the identity versus role confusion. So at this age, children are experiencing that change from, I guess you will say, underage to adults. So they have all these, what's it called? They have all these, they have to start making decisions, either like say like if they're going to go to college, if they're going to move out, what career are they going to um, to go on to. So they have a lot of, um, not ideas, but they have a lot of, shoot, sorry, they start to, um, they need to become, or sorry, we'll start all over. So ages 12 to 18, and then during this stage, adolescents learn to identify with the many roles of adulthood by exploring independence and develop sense of self and the experience of virtue of fidelity. However, if the adolescent doesn't develop a sense of self, then rebellion occurs. So if, let's say, the child or the adolescent is having trouble deciding what he's going to do with his life and making all these choices, then hence he rebels. However, if a child is able to identify himself and take part of all these choices, then he develops identity. And then we have this right here, which is number 6, which is intimacy versus isolation. So at this age of adults' lives, we go from a big circle to a smaller circle, and we become more intimate and experience meaningful relationship. And then from this, we experience love. However, if this isn't experienced, then we become unhappy, and then we become isolated from everybody else. And then we go into stage 7, which is generativity versus stagnation. And then this occurs ages 40 to 65. And so this happens as humans are getting ready, or people are getting ready to, what's it called? To retired. So then they start to wanting to give back to their family, either their kids or their grandchildren, and they become to take, or they begin to take care of others. However, if this doesn't occur, then an adult might become unproductive, and then, eventually become stagnant. And then we have the last one for Erikson, which was the integrity versus despair. And then this happens ages 65 and up. So during this stage, elderlies reflect on their life, and they either become satisfied or unsatisfied with their life. So if they become satisfied with their life, they, are filled with wisdom. And then if this doesn't occur and they are dissatisfied with their life, then they become with a sense of dissatisfaction, which carries on to death. So this were the 8 psychosocial development stages Erikson believed we as humans go through. And then we will go to the second one, which was social emotional development. So I'm going to read what it says here. So social emotional development is a combination of intra and interpersonal experiences. It includes child's relationship, expressions, and management of emotions. And then you can see this one. I got this one from the internet. So then the first one is responsive caregiving. So an infant isn't able to do stuff for themselves. So if an infant cries, either he is hungry, sleepy, or dirty diaper. So depending on the response of caregivers or parents, then infants develop a sense of predictability, safety, and responses in their social environment. And then emotional security is provided, occurs between parents and then caregivers, and is a consistent nurturance that strengthens children's capacity to learn and develop. So I believe these two right here are a little bit more interconnected, because if the child has responsive caregiving, then he is more than likely to have emotional security, and they both, and children, need this in order for them to be successful in later years. Yes, and then we will go into the temperament. So a child's temperament is a combination of a child's personality traits and how they view, behave, and interact with the environment. So a child's temperament can be slow to warm up, can be they are 8, I believe, or 7, but this is the only one that I can remember. But a child's temperament affects their interactions with peers and with adults as well. Because if you have what is the other one? So if you have a temperament, child's temperament that is just very, like, it's constantly crying or misbehaving, then the child will probably struggle through daycare, preschool, elementary, versus a child that is has a good temperament, then he won't struggle with peers and with adults. So he'll have a better life. Okay, so then we go to emotional regulation. So that's occurs when a child is able to regulate own emotions and is accomplished with the help of parents and caregivers as they model appropriate behavior of the correct characteristics. And then we have impulsive control, which occurs when children develop the capacity to control impulses that help them adapt to social situations and follow rules. So an example will be, so there's 2 children and they're playing in the playground, and then a child comes and grabs the toy away from the little boy's, hands. I think impulse is to snatch it away from them. However, from experiences, children learn to, use their words or ask for help instead of snatching or, starting a fight. And then we have with social understanding occurs when a children develops an understanding of the responses, communication, emotional expression, and actions of other people. So emotional understanding is an example. So here, right here, of this picture that I have placed is, we have a group of girls who are all sharing their space, and they have all learned that, at school they share their materials or their toys, and that they also have learned to give each other space. And that's all, an understanding of social understandings. And then we will go into effective. So that's when a child accomplishes an intended result. So the previous slide, which was social understanding. So if a child understands social understanding, then the child accomplishes the effective. Then my baby is crying, I'm sorry. And then we have empathy, when as a child fears for other children and becomes aware of others' feelings and cares of those feelings. So this picture right here that I have placed, it shows a older boy sharing toys with a younger girl. So that's an example of empathy. Then we have self-efficacy, which relates to the sense of competence. An example is, I'm good at drawing, or I, went to the potty. So yeah, that is self-efficacy. And then sense of self is when a child becomes aware of own self and others around him. So this occurs when a child knows to distinguish between mommy, daddy, and teachers, friends versus siblings, or grandma versus aunt. So that sense of self, because he knows, he's aware of himself and the people around him. And thank you for listening to my screencast, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.